The moment Muhammad Ali stepped into that whites-only diner, time seemed to slow. The chatter that had filled the air just seconds before vanished like mist. The waitstaff froze mid-step, trays hanging in the air. Patrons stopped chewing, their eyes widening in disbelief. Some instinctively reached for their phones, but even the act of recording felt awkward under the weight of the tension. Ali walked in with his trademark calm, almost casual confidence. Every step he took resonated authority, not because he shouted or demanded attention, but because he carried an aura of unshakable self-respect. He wore a crisp white suit that contrasted sharply with the faded booths and checkered floors. His gaze swept the room, calm yet piercing, and in that moment it was clear, he belonged there, whether they liked it or not. The diner's manager, a stout man with a permanent scowl etched across his face, immediately straightened. He clutched the counter as if it could anchor him against the storm that had just walked through his door. "We don't serve your kind here," he spat out, his voice trembling slightly, not from fear but from disbelief. Ali paused near the counter, his hands folded in front of him. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. Instead, he gave the faintest of smiles, one that carried years of wisdom, courage, and an unspoken challenge. The silence thickened, as if the air itself were holding its breath. Every eye in the diner was on him. Every whisper, every hesitant shuffle, every startled gasp seemed to echo in perfect harmony. And then Ali did something that no one inside that diner would ever forget. A single action that would turn a room full of arrogance and prejudice into witnesses of a quiet, unstoppable power. It was a quiet afternoon in downtown Louisville, the kind where the sun poured softly through the tall diner windows, casting long, golden streaks across the checkered floor. Outside, the streets were busy with people walking to nearby shops, but inside the diner, a different kind of tension always lingered. This place was famous, or rather infamous, for one thing: its strict, segregated policy. Locals knew the rules, and the manager enforced them with a proud, almost gleeful arrogance. No exceptions. Ever. The bell above the door jingled as it opened, and in walked Muhammad Ali, calm and collected as ever. His signature white suit seemed to glow under the dim diner lights, his shoes clicking softly against the linoleum. People glanced up, some in surprise, some in disbelief. There were no bodyguards, no entourage, just Ali, one man, radiating confidence that was impossible to ignore. He made his way to the counter, where the manager, a stout man with a red face and a permanent frown, looked up from his paperwork. "Afternoon," Ali said, his voice smooth but firm, carrying the kind of authority that made you listen even before you realized it. The manager's frown deepened. "We don't serve your kind here," he said, as if stating an unshakable law. Ali let out a soft chuckle, almost melodic, like he was amused by the absurdity of the situation. "I'm just here for a cup of coffee," he replied. There was no anger in his tone, no bitterness, just a calm, unshakable presence that made the manager squirm under the weight of his own prejudice. The diner fell silent. A waitress paused mid-step with a coffee pot in hand, unsure whether to serve or flee. Patrons exchanged glances, some whispering to each other, some wide-eyed in awe. Ali's calm confidence filled the room, forcing every single person to pay attention. He wasn't here to start a fight, he didn't need to be, but in that moment, he was challenging every unjust rule the diner had ever enforced. He placed his hand on the counter, and the manager's eyes flickered with a mix of disbelief and irritation. "Just a cup of coffee," Ali repeated, his smile widening slightly, as if he were letting the absurdity of the world unfold before him. "And here's where I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments." Folded hands. If you're enjoying this story and the way Ali handles injustice with quiet confidence, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that inspire and leave a lasting impact. Even in that quiet moment, it was clear, nothing about this afternoon would be ordinary. Every action, every word, and every gaze in that diner was about to change, because Muhammad Ali had arrived. The manager's face turned red, veins standing out along his forehead. "I said, no service," he barked, slamming his hand against the counter as if that would assert his authority. The words came out harsh, but there was an unmistakable tremor underneath, an edge of disbelief that he was actually standing up to Muhammad Ali. Ali didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He leaned casually on the counter, his arms crossed, his posture calm but unyielding. A faint smile curved across his face, one that carried decades of confidence, wisdom, and a quiet strength that could silence even the loudest arrogance. "I don't think you understand," Ollie said, his tone gentle yet firm. "I'm not here to argue. I just want a cup of coffee." The diner seemed to hold its breath. Patrons shifted in their seats, some whispering nervously to each other. A few pulled out their phones, hesitant, unsure if they were about to witness a confrontation or history. Even the clatter of a dropped spoon seemed deafening against the thick, tense silence that filled the room. Ali's calm presence contrasted sharply with the manager's flustered, shouting demeanor. It was almost poetic, the quiet force of dignity standing up against the thunder of prejudice. Ali slowly unclasped his coat and laid it across the counter, the gesture deliberate, measured. And then he revealed it, his Olympic gold medal gleaming brilliantly under the sunlight streaming through the diner window. Gasps echoed across the room. Some patrons instinctively covered their mouths, others froze mid-step, unable to process what they were seeing. The waiter behind the counter dropped a coffee mug, but no one moved to pick it up. All eyes were on Ollie, who now seemed to fill the entire room not just with presence, but with a kind of quiet authority that demanded recognition. The manager staggered back slightly, blinking rapidly, his face pale. "Why, you're Muhammad Ali," he stammered, his voice cracking under the weight of shock and embarrassment. Ollie shook his head slowly, still smiling. "I'm just a man wanting coffee," he said. But then, his expression hardened just slightly, enough to convey the seriousness of his message. "But I won't let disrespect slide." The calmness in his voice carried an undeniable warning. It wasn't anger, it was dignity, and it was undeniable. People in the diner whispered frantically among themselves. Some were inspired, some confused, and a few dared to stare directly at the manager, whose arrogance now seemed to crumble under the weight of truth. The atmosphere had shifted. What had started as a simple afternoon coffee run had become a test of character, not just for the manager, but for every single person in the room. Ali's presence had turned the diner into a stage. Every word he spoke, every gesture he made, resonated far beyond the counter. The manager's authority, once absolute, was now fragile. He opened his mouth, tried to speak, but Ali's steady gaze and calm demeanor held him in place. And in that silence, in that quiet standoff, it became clear to everyone watching, this was more than a man wanting coffee. This was Muhammad Ali teaching a lesson in courage, dignity, and the power of quiet strength, without raising a fist, without shouting a single word. Muhammad Ali stood up, his posture straight, his presence commanding yet calm, and the entire diner seemed to lean in without moving a single inch. The murmurs died down. The soft hum of conversation, the clatter of cups and plates, even the distant sound of traffic outside, it all faded as if the world itself had been asked to pause. Every eye in the diner was fixed on him. Every ear was waiting for the words that would define the rest of the afternoon. "I may be famous," Ali began, his voice carrying the weight of truth rather than ego, "but respect isn't about fame. It's about how we treat one another. How we treat people when no one else is watching. How we stand when injustice appears in front of us." He walked toward the counter, his white suit immaculate, the Olympic gold medal gleaming faintly at his side. Patrons instinctively took a step back, as if to give him space, though none of them had moved an inch until now. The manager, still frozen behind the counter, looked like a man caught between fear, embarrassment, and disbelief. His authority, once absolute in that diner, now seemed fragile. Ali stopped just a few feet from him and reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small stack of items and selected a single photograph, a classic image of himself, gloved fists raised, eyes filled with determination and charm. He held it out, signing it with a flourish before handing it to the manager. "Change starts with a single step," Ali said, his words deliberate, slow, and impossible to ignore. His gaze met the manager's, calm but penetrating. "And it's never too late to take that step." The manager's hand trembled as he accepted the photograph. His mouth opened to speak, but no words came out at first. The diner had gone completely silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy and dense, the kind that makes everyone suddenly aware of their own thoughts, actions, and choices. Ali turned his attention to the rest of the diner. Patrons were leaning forward, some holding their phones, some just staring, witnessing a lesson in courage and humanity unfold before them. "We all have choices," Ali continued. "Every day, every interaction, every moment. And how we act defines the world we live in. He paused, letting the words sink in. Every person in that diner could feel it. The weight of responsibility, the power of humility, and the quiet strength of someone who commands respect without demanding it. Ali didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to yell, or throw a punch, or show off the accolades that everyone in the world already knew he had earned. His power was silent, undeniable, and transformative. And then he smiled, just faintly, that small, confident curve that carried years of victories both in and out of the ring. Respect is a language everyone understands, he said softly. Even when it seems like no one is listening, it's always heard. At that moment, something remarkable happened. The manager, whose arrogance had once filled the diner like a storm, finally found his voice. I understand, he stammered, his tone a mixture of awe and shame. I didn't realize. Ali nodded. That's the point, he said simply. Understanding is always the first step toward change. Now it was the patron's turn. Some clapped quietly, not wanting to break the fragile tension too abruptly, while others just nodded, absorbing the lesson. Phones recorded the moment, videos destined to circulate far beyond the four walls of that diner. The lesson wasn't just for the people in the room, it was for anyone who would witness it later. Courage, dignity, and respect often speak louder than any shout. Before Ali walked to the exit, he turned back once more to the manager. Take this photograph not just as a memory, but as a reminder, he said. A reminder that the smallest acts of kindness, humility, and courage can change everything. And now, I want to hear from you. Drop a like and subscribe if you believe in the power of respect and courage. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have confronted injustice like Ali, stayed silent, or found your own way to make a difference? Ali didn't linger. He walked calmly toward the door, leaving the diner transformed in ways that no money, policy, or authority could ever achieve. Patrons whispered among themselves, the staff exchanged glances filled with newfound awareness, and the manager held the signed photograph in his hands, a tangible reminder that the world could change with courage and respect. Every footstep Ali took toward the door resonated, a subtle reminder that true greatness isn't measured by fame, money, or accolades. It's measured by the strength of character, the courage to act, and the quiet impact one person can have on everyone around them. The diner was still buzzing with the quiet tension of the moment, but a shift had begun to take place. Muhammad Ali had walked to the counter, stood tall, and delivered a lesson not with fists or fame, but with dignity and calm authority. Now, the manager, who had moments ago been consumed by pride and prejudice, was confronted with the undeniable truth of Ali's presence. For a long moment, the manager simply stood there, frozen, staring at the signed photograph Ali had given him. His hands, once so confident and commanding, were now shaking slightly as he clutched the photo like a lifeline. The humiliation, the realization of his arrogance, and the weight of his own actions pressed heavily on him. Every second stretched into eternity as he faced the man he had once thought he could dismiss with a few cruel words. Finally, he exhaled, a long, shaky breath that seemed to release years of stubbornness and misplaced pride. I understand now, he said, his voice low, filled with a mixture of humility, awe, and regret. I really understand. Ali nodded once, his expression calm but knowing. He returned to his table, folded his hands in front of him, and sat down. He poured himself a small sip of coffee, savoring it quietly, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But everyone in the diner knew something extraordinary had happened, something that would be remembered long after the day ended. The patrons, seeing Ali's quiet composure and the manager's humbled reaction, began to follow his lead. Some apologized to staff for laughing earlier, their faces red with embarrassment. Others approached the manager, offering small words of understanding or encouragement. Even the staff, who had felt powerless in the face of the manager's previous arrogance, now moved with a renewed sense of dignity and respect. Ali sat calmly, observing it all. He didn't need to comment further. His presence had already spoken volumes. The diner, once a place defined by prejudice and tension, had been transformed by the simple acts of courage and calm authority displayed by one man. Every person present could feel it, a quiet but undeniable lesson about respect, humanity, and the power of standing firm without aggression. Ali's actions had reminded them that strength wasn't about yelling, demanding, or humiliating others. Strength was quiet. Strength was dignity. Strength was standing up for what's right while remaining composed, even when everyone else expected anger or confrontation. The manager, holding the signed photograph close, finally straightened his posture. He looked around the diner, his eyes meeting those of patrons, staff, and even the few people who had recorded the events on their phones. There was no need for more words. The photograph itself was a symbol of accountability and a tangible reminder that the world could change if people chose to act with respect and courage. Ali finished his coffee and stood up. He glanced around the room one last time, letting every face feel the weight of the lesson he was leaving behind. Without a word, he walked toward the door, each step measured, deliberate, and calm. The bell above the diner door jingled as he exited, but the echoes of that bell felt heavier, as if carrying the lesson with them. Even after Ali left, the diner was not the same. Conversations began to stir again, but the tone had changed. Patrons spoke in whispers, sharing the moment they had just witnessed. "Did you see that?" one whispered. He didn't raise his voice, and yet, everyone felt it. Another added, "I've never seen anything like that." That was respect in action. The manager finally spoke again, this time with genuine humility. "From now on," he said softly, "I will do better. I will treat people with the respect they deserve. Not because of fame, not because of authority, but because it's the right thing to do." And that was the lasting impact of Muhammad Ali's visit. He didn't just come in for a cup of coffee. He didn't just reveal who he was or hand out signed photographs. He changed the atmosphere, the mindset, and the very understanding of respect in that small diner. Ali left quietly, but the lesson lingered for years. Patrons would tell the story to friends, staff would recall the lesson when handling difficult situations, and even the manager would carry the memory of that day with him, a constant reminder that true strength lies in humility, courage, and the quiet power of standing up for what's right. In that moment, everyone realized something profound. Sometimes, the simplest actions, quietly standing firm, showing dignity, and teaching without anger, can have the most powerful, lasting effect. Muhammad Ali had done more than demand respect. He had inspired it, forever changing the lives of everyone who witnessed it firsthand. The diner had returned to its normal rhythm, plates clinking, coffee cups being refilled, and quiet chatter filling the air, but something had fundamentally changed. Every person inside that room felt it. The lesson Muhammad Ali had delivered, without yelling or force, had taken root deep in their minds. Respect isn't something you demand. Respect isn't about wealth, fame, or authority. True respect is earned, quietly, in the way you treat others even when no one is looking. Ali had shown them that. He had walked in calmly, faced prejudice head-on, and transformed a tense situation into a lesson in dignity and courage. The manager had been humbled. Patrons had been inspired. And Ali had done it without raising his voice, without showing anger, without fighting. His strength lay in restraint, in principle, and in character. This is the lesson that resonates far beyond that small diner in Louisville. In life, we often face situations where standing up for what's right seems impossible. People might dismiss us, underestimate us, or even try to intimidate us. But true power lies in the ability to remain calm, to act with dignity, and to let your integrity speak louder than anyone else's words. Think about it. Ali didn't need to confront the manager aggressively. He didn't need to prove who he was with fame or medals. He simply held his ground, displayed his confidence, and treated everyone with respect. And in doing so, he inspired a room full of people to reflect on their own behavior. That's the kind of impact real courage can have, quiet, transformative, and lasting. It's easy to confuse power with intimidation. It's easy to assume that respect can be forced. But Ali's visit to the diner reminds us that true influence comes from character, humility, and the strength to do the right thing, even when it's difficult. One calm, measured action can ripple outward and change the way people think, behave, and treat one another. As you go about your own life, remember that every small act of kindness, every decision to respond with patience rather than anger, every choice to lead by example, builds a legacy far stronger than fleeting fame or authority. Courage isn't always about making a scene, it's about standing firm, staying calm, and letting your actions define who you are. So, what can we take from Ali's story? Respect everyone, no matter their status. Stand up against injustice, even quietly. Lead by example. And know that even a single act of integrity has the power to inspire others. If you believe in humility, courage, and the quiet power of doing the right thing, type respect in the comments. Let's fill this space with people who value dignity and strength of character over arrogance and prejudice. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, so you never miss another story that inspires, motivates, and reminds us all what true power really means. Remember, greatness isn't measured by fame, money, or accolades. Greatness is measured by your ability to remain calm under pressure, to act with courage in the face of injustice, and to inspire others through the strength of your character. Muhammad Ali didn't just fight in the ring. He fought with his principles, every day, showing the world that the bravest battles are often those we fight quietly, with respect and integrity. So carry this lesson forward. In your schools, offices, homes, and communities, choose respect over arrogance. Choose humility over pride. Choose courage over fear. And in doing so, you'll become the kind of person whose actions leave a lasting mark on the world, just as Muhammad Ali did in that small diner in Louisville. One quiet act can change lives. One calm, respectful gesture can transform minds. One person standing firm in dignity can inspire everyone around them. That is the true power of respect, and that is the legacy Ali left behind for us all. Type respect in the comments if you believe in humility and courage. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss an inspiring story.